leadership to recruit union labor and empower fellow veterans through initiatives like Hiring Our Heroes. With over 3 years of experience, with over 3 years of experience, Jack passionately supports trade training programs for military families, English language learners, and adult learners, fostering inclusive, high-impact teams within in mechanical contracting and energy services. His commitment to community and service shares both professionally and in his volunteer work. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Jack Barry. Morning, sir. How you doing?
Morning. Geez, this is quite the shindig right now. I don't think I was ready for this.
We thought we'd get you going first thing on a Monday morning, fire
Yeah,
you up for the day.
yeah.
So how are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Good. It's finally fall up here in the Pacific Northwest, so I live in Tacoma, not too far from Joint Base Lewis McChord. So it's nice. It's been some good, nice, brisk mornings. So that's been nice to go out there and have some morning walks before I get into the thick of it during the day. So
Well, yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about McKinstry and then your position there at McKinstry.
yeah, I've been there. I've been at McKinstry since July 17th of 2024. Really, my position was new. They needed somebody with an understanding of unions and apprenticeships and how to basically talk to union folks and understand the programs in which a lot of folks are kind of rising up through the unions to kind of help them out and get new talent, especially when it comes to HVAC and plumbing in the service department there. And so been doing that. And then I also help out too with hiring our heroes and helping out one of the other recruiters that was on our team that was doing the bulk work of that as well too. And so yeah, it's been really good. McKinstry has been around for 65 years in Seattle. We're, I would what you would say a family owned company. And so one family has been a part of McKinstry for that 65 years, and it's the Allen family. So George, our current CEO's dad, so current CEO Dean, his dad George founded the company with a guy by the name of Merrill McKinstry, thus the namesake there. And they really started off helping out Boeing with their service as far as plumbing and HVAC. And then Dean graduated from University of Washington and basically started as a janitor in the company and just started kind of working up and helping out here and there. And he started to do some sales stuff along the way. And he really wanted to diversify the company more because he saw a lot of stuff that was going on in the private sector to where companies like Boeing at the time were doing kind of like layoffs. Other big companies were doing layoffs as well too. And Dean was like, "Hey, can I?" He asked his dad George, "Can I get it to a place? I'll give you a year of like my hard-earned blood, sweat, and tears, and if I get this to where we don't have to lay anybody off, can we go forward in these ideas that I have?" And his dad George was like, "Have at it, like do what you want." So thankfully we diversified a lot just from service. We went into different lines of business, electrical, fire protection, started to do more engineering, started to do more energy and renewables projects. And really in the 1990s, it's kind of what you see there as like my logo up here. Where is it? If I can locate it. Yeah, right
Yep.
here.
Yep.
That logo. Um, Started in the 90s, really, where we really started to focus on buildings and energy efficient buildings and how do we get the waste out of buildings. And even when you talk to some of our VPs, they'll say, how do we get it to where we're getting an HVAC system in a building? It's taking in air. We're cleaning it through the HVAC systems that we put into place, and we're spitting it out better than what we got it. And so a lot of focus on kind of conservation work as well too. So it's both that construction business and energy services business. Um, and yeah, we've been kind of plugging along here, like I said, for 65 years. Now we're pretty much, I would say, almost coast to coast. So our HQ is in Seattle, Washington, and then our furthest office is in Tampa. So
I mean, I think it constitutes coast to coast. I know it's the wrong side of Florida, but it's still, I mean, that reaches pretty
yeah,
far.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Not
So
that's amazing, both for you and for McKinstry. You know, a company being a small company, family owned too, being around for 65 years is that's that's nothing short of amazing.
yeah.
So what do you see for transitioning vets? We have a group of right about 400 right now transitioning out of the military in various backgrounds. What do you see as some key skills that just being in the military you can take from that experience and move on into things like McKinstry or other areas?
Yeah, I would say it's very different than when I was getting out. So my service time was in between 2010 and 2015. Um, and by the time I was starting to do TAP and starting to do stuff along those lines as a junior officer in the Army, we didn't have any of the skill bridge stuff. We didn't have hiring our heroes at that point just yet. We barely had any kind of certificate programs along those lines as well too. And so I started to go in and do headhunter stuff and with a military recruiting outfit, and I felt like that didn't work. Um, but I feel like I do a lot of volunteer work, and one of the organizations that both McKinstry and I volunteer with is the Honor Foundation, and they do a really great job of giving you that baseline of they start with the why. Like you have to know why do you want to do what you want to do? Like and so a lot of stuff revolves around that why and building off that why. Because honestly, I was just trying to transition out of the military and maybe get like a equivalent position in operations or something like that that was go, go, go. And then I just took a step back and I said, is that really good for me right now? Is that really going to help me out in my life? And I said, no, it's probably not. Like, what am I really passionate about? Well, at the time, I was like, well, I would rather go back to doing what I did in higher education. So when I was a senior in college, I was on student government and really helping out, kind of getting people more in tune with civics and getting involved in in the political system of voting. And at that point in time, it was, let's see, end of 2009, 2010 was my senior year in college. So I don't know if that dates me or not, but so by that
Not at all.
time,
Not at all.
there was a lot of back to back to back 15, 20% increases in tuition, right? And in our state, especially in Washington State. And so I was really trying to motivate a lot of students and look at what they were paying for. And so um, I really started to go into higher ed after I got out of the military. Well, I didn't go into higher ed immediately. So I went and did a temp job and worked for a grant by the VA through a nonprofit in Central Washington. And so I did a lot of intake with homeless veterans, helping them out on the ground. Kind of those recruiting skills were kind of really forged even before that. So I was a gold bar recruiter for my ROTC unit when I just became a second lieutenant. And then when I did this temp job, I was really recruiting homeless veterans to get on this program to see if they were a good fit for it and to see if that would work out. And so, what I see a lot of veterans bringing to the table in soft skills, a lot of it is just being aware, being op tempoly aware, if that's even a word, op tempoly. But having an awareness of your op tempo and also having an awareness of just what's going on, being curious. Like we really foster a culture of curiosity at McKinstry. So we really, really want you to ask questions and kind of dig into that. Um, but yeah, I see a lot of soft skills coming in the ways of being curious, asking questions. Hey, how do I get from point A to point B in the civilian sector? Because a lot of people just they haven't had an interview in 30 years, to be quite honest.
Yep.
Some folks haven't. And so how can I and this really comes in a place of humility for me, where it's like, okay, I don't know all the answers. I'm not here to be an influencer or anything like that. I'm just here to walk alongside you on this journey as best as I can, because I never got that. I got help here and there, but I never had a mentor. I never had another veteran. I had groups of veterans that I could help, that I could kind of like, relate to, but I never had a veteran come alongside me and just say, hey, this is how the world's going to be, and you need to prepare for it. So, a lot of the soft skills that I see in just depending upon where you're at,
And soft skills.
at the level wise, as far as the military goes too, is a lot of networking is happening in the military. You're
Yeah.
building a lot of networking. You're trying to network with other people. I think I saw that the most because my last stop in the Army was at a Brigade S4 shop, and I saw our transportation chief. He was networking all the time, and he had this like imaginary Rolodex that he would just pop up and know the answers to, or I would ask him questions about stuff, and he would just come up with them. So, I mean, a lot of it is just asking the questions and seeking out the people for the answers. That'll get you in a lot of good places in just asking those questions. Now, hopefully, the recipient of that question is going to be a little bit in tune and a little bit compassionate to what you're going through. I think that's what we're missing in the civilian sector, with even just some service members who have got out of the service and are looking for and are now in a job, and they're trying to help other veterans, but they're kind of burnt out a little bit. And so there's kind of like this, don't talk to me about this. I got too much stuff going on. But you really have to have this humility about you to where, no, it's like I was that same person who's trying to ask those questions, and just one answer I could give this person, or just one tip I could give them to either nudge them in the right direction, or hey, just tweak this on your resume. Just do
Yeah.
that. So I think a lot of it that I see, the soft skills that I see coming out of the military, is a lot of curiosity, a lot of drive. People want to succeed. Like, people don't want to fail.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so when they come out of the military into the civilian sector, they want to see that success happen. And sometimes you kind of have to get a reality check on what success looks like in the civilian sector, and just have somebody like myself or people at McKinstry at our veterans employee resource group just say, hey, like, this is probably what you're going to deal with. And so how can I prepare you for those times where it comes to bear like that? So, but yeah, I see a lot of veterans and a lot of transitioning service members asking good questions. A little bit more. I'm surprised. I went to Hiring Our Heroes Fair here in at JBLM not too long ago, just this last September, and there's a little timidness here and there.
Yeah.
But I do see a lot of like getting right to things, which is great as well too. Um, I think the biggest thing that I see in my field is you gotta know how to talk to people. I recruit, I sit in the union halls and I do apprenticeship rankings and stuff like that. And if you do not know how to talk to people, if you are just like not there as far as just pretty easy customer service stuff goes, like, hey, how are you doing? How's this
Mhm.
going? Like, if you don't have that, you're not going to be a good service tech. Yeah,
I,
in both
I
plumbing
definitely
and
think,
HVAC. So,
yeah, I definitely think in the military, at least those particular skills are always there, no matter what,
yeah,
because we're always moving, always meeting new people. At least having to say, "Hi, how are you?" I think
yep,
we got, most of us should have those basics.
yeah.
Uh, I know we got Robert Hendrickson. I know I see your hand up there. What you got, man?
So for McKinstry, is there any like one role that you see veterans doing better or worse in?
Hmm. Not really. I think it just depends on your background. I think we're starting to build so much of our veteran culture at McKinstry right now that we have this nice little spread out area in which we can kind of plug you into the right team. And I don't really like to use the word fit either. And I think a lot of a lot of our recruiters and talent acquisition people don't like to say, "Hey, I'm going to see if you're the right fit for this role." I don't like to use that language because fit means that you have to kind of like wedge yourself in to make yourself different in order to accommodate that team. We use a lot of language like, hey, I'm trying to see what value that you're going to add to that team. So that's a different kind of language proposition that I'm trying to like get across to a lot of other people is, and even for, the folks on this call, start asking yourself, what value add can I bring to a team? Start asking yourself those questions to really kind of look at, and if you can reflect that on your resume and start going from there, that's kind of what I see. But yeah, I mean, we have veterans in our construction trades. So I have veterans in piping and plumbing and HVAC techs who are vets. I know vets who are in engineering, who are in energy services, who are doing different project management stuff across the board. We have veterans in sales. Thankfully, a lot of our higher ups in McKinstry are starting to say, "Hey, we want more HOH fellows. We want more hiring our heroes fellows in these different offices." So Matt Allen, who's the VP of Client Relations, Client Strategy, he's like, "Hey, I want a fellow to do an enterprise account manager role with me to kind of teach them up." And so recruiting for him and looking for the right HOH fellow for him it just makes sense because a lot of veterans that I know that can fit that, I wouldn't say fit that, but can value add that, just to keep myself accountable, can value add that, have been in certain levels of leadership across the board in the military that can network and know people. And that's really kind of, honestly, sometimes that's what enterprise client relations is you're trying to network and trying to keep people plugged in that are kind of a little bit more on your short list of customers that are going to come back to you time and time again. And so, but yeah, I wouldn't say there's one place. I would say that we've had people in the past. So I'll give you an example. Navy nukes, they usually will go into commissioning, and commissioning means that you're trying to start up a new HVAC system or a mechanical system and look at the electrical and everything, the components of everything. So a lot of Navy nukes go well into kind of commissioning just because it makes sense and they already kind of know that terminology. But I mean, we've had people who have been in the Air Force who are doing construction project management come into McKinstry and do construction project management, and it has been pretty seamless. So, but yeah, I wouldn't say there's one niche market that we look at. I mean, there's definitely some departments where you see more veterans than often. I think our service department is kind of more along those lines, just because it's a little bit more, the op tempo is relatable to kind of daily operations in the military. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Jake, want to see you. I'll give you 1 second. So I really I want to foot stomp. You don't say somebody's the right fit. I love that because all too often you hear, we don't really see as the right fit. This isn't the right role for you. But it's more of a how do we make the role fit for you instead of how do we make you fit the role. That's, to me, that's awesome, especially being a transitioning vet myself. It's awesome to hear things like that. I just
Yeah.
wanted to foot stomp that one. Jaquan, what you got, man?
Good morning, Jack. How's it going today, brother?
Morning. It's going well.
So usually when I hear a mentor come up here and speak, I believe that every mentor has almost like a spiritual lesson that they teach to us, even if it's not directly, it's like subconsciously. So I just wanted to ask you this question. This is the first question that came to mind. Do you believe that you have to give to receive? Do you believe that your volunteer work with vets actually had a major impact on your journey?
Hmm. I mean, to be frank with you, I've been a Christian for about 19 years. And so I know our scriptures say it is better to give than to receive. So, that's just a tee up for me, to be quite honest. I'm trying not to be cliche either about that, but, man, I think I think honestly, it is better to receive actually than to, or actually to give than to receive, excuse me. Because really what happens to you, and stuff has happened this year to where I feel more along those lines where it's better for me to kind of pour myself out to the veteran community than to try and get accolades or to do any of that. I'm more of the type of person who would rather kind of work in obscurity. And if somebody recognizes my work and what I post on LinkedIn and what I'm doing, that's great. And but I want to help out that person on the ground that's really struggling to try and find this way in which they're just not, the the wires aren't matching up, things aren't turning on. Um, but like I said, the humility part is really big for me. Um, the humility part, the part of, everything that's given to you in this life is a gift. Um, how you steward that gift is very important. How you share that gift with others is very important as well too. So yeah, I would say try not to be too preachy here, and I'm trying to trying to make sure
No,
that I'm
no, give it
walking
to
the
us
line
raw.
good.
Give it to us raw. This is what the chat needs.
So
This is what they
but no,
need.
but man, there's something about community that helps you. So when you are just down, just flat on your butt sometimes, and you are just nothing's making sense, the thing that is easy to go back to is the people that you know in your community. And that's what really helped me in my transition. I really didn't have, I didn't have, I mean, I was going through a headhunter, a military headhunter that just wasn't working out. They just weren't understanding what I wanted. I just said, you know what? I'm just going to cut sling load on this. And I got to figure out, just, just destroy it. Just go back to the foundation. What's my why? Why do I want to do, what do I want to do with my life? Why do I want to feel like this is the place that I want to go there? And it just goes back to most veteran or most service members that I see, or most veterans that I see who want to do stuff. And it doesn't mean that I'm the end all be all of things, but it does mean that it's like, okay, I got to humble myself to gather the resources in my mind to kind of help out that person and what they're going through. And so it could be something as easy as, if a service member's been in an industry, I've been through this myself. If a service member's been through an industry, they want to do an industry change. I went from higher education where I had soft skills in recruiting, but I didn't have certain hard skills in talent acquisition. But I pivoted as best I could, and I tried to communicate how that looked like. And even going from just being in a nonprofit into higher education, I had to sell some time in the military too. It's like, hey, usually what you're given in the military is a manual, and read this manual and PMCS this vehicle and make sure that it runs right. So a lot of it is just like that. And so when I went from nonprofit to higher education, I remember looking at my computer, my office that I went to in my first higher education role, and I was basically doing a lot of special grants. So I'd recruit students to get on these grants to help them out complete their complete their degree or complete their certificate that they were going into high impact kind of jobs. So a lot of medical, a lot of automotive technicians, a lot of dental. Um, there was several other different trades as well too. But I remember just getting this manual, and it just had screenshots of this 80s looking blue screen that you would hit F1, F2, F3 on to change all these progressions on the student's profile and start going from there. So some of it is just like you have to be humble. Sometimes right now, I'll tell you what, the job market is, statistics are going to be stacked against you. And if you don't have a hope built up inside of you, and I don't like to make this campy either, because some folks are, I mean, they're good motivators, but it's like they haven't been through a hard enough transition to know what it's like to grind out there on the job market. And so they'll say, go out there and do this and do that and rah, rah, rah. But it's like, you got to make strategic conversations. You got to talk to people that are going to get you from, the 1 yard line to maybe the 5 yard line and just keep moving the chains forward. So yeah, there's just stuff like that where a lot of it is just it's better to give. Um, it fills you up a little bit knowing that other people know something. I think the big thing that I talk about in talent acquisition is a lot of us recruiters have just lost our way and auto reject you on the applicant tracking system and break it to you hard. Just say, hey, I don't think this is going to work out. I know you're right there and stuff like that. It's not going to work out for us because you're applying for this role. We feel like your value add might be in this area as well too, but a lot of you kind of have to break it to them that way. And I think we've lost that just because of COVID and we were where we were at, where we didn't communicate with each other in person, and we lost this way of kind of breaking it, speaking the truth to people in a way in which they understood things and they could comprehend it. So I think in one sense too, like we have to get back to, at least talent acquisition has to get back to a place to where we're talking with you. And I talk to people all the time. I'm like, if you apply for a job, put my name down as a referral. You know me, you've had a conversation with me. I can vouch for you because we've had a conversation. So just put my name down as a referral because at least that gives you a way forward. A lot of people never talked to me about that when I was separating out of the service. It was just a lot of it was submit and pray that I'll get a call back. And in higher education, when you're submitting for like these different positions as like a grant or like a veterans coordinator role at different community colleges or colleges, it's going to be 3 months. Like the process to get into that role is going to probably be 3 months. It's going to take you 2 months for just the interviews and then another month for them to make up their mind to figure this out, unfortunately. And then when you get in it, it's just like, okay, how can we make this faster? But so yeah, there's a lot of stuff that it is better to give back to the veteran community than to just get all this stuff or to get these accolades or to be on a pedestal and to say that I know everything or to be like, to go back to my spiritual senses, to be like Solomon and just deal out wisdom. I don't think that's the right area and the right place that I want to be. It's more along the lines of like having a humbleness and a humility about it. So
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, thank you. David, what you got?
Good day, Jack. How are you today?
good. How are you?
Doing very well. A lot of statistics going out about higher learning and about service industry. Right now, they're saying like the generations coming out, the service industry is going to be really behind on having individuals trained in HVAC, plumbing, whatnot. And I know you mentioned something about higher learning. For example, if you have an individual who, say, has a degree and is looking at going into the trades, what does that journey look like as far as going through the union, getting, accepted through the journeyman program? Is that fast track compared to somebody who has a high school diploma or a GED, who has to take their basic exam just to get accepted, like on the roll, to get picked on that process? For an individual who actually has some education behind them, do you kind of jump up on that journeyman line, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I would say, your best bet sometimes is to go to a technical school or a trade school first and try and use your benefits from there and try and build upon it. The one area that we recruit out of a lot is the Veterans and Piping program through the United Association unions of plumbers, pipe fitters, HVAC refrigeration techs, because that's a surefire way in which, okay, I know this person's been trained the right way. They just need the right shot. The problem is sometimes what you're looking for in a tradesman or an apprentice to start out with is usually, okay, can that person talk to people? And on top of it, do they have that drive to come in early and leave late and learn more and to keep learning more and have this disposition of learning, right? So a lot of it is starting off that way. If you're going the union route, it's absolutely more competitive. and it's competitive for a reason. I mean, you do get great benefits. You're basically getting your health, dental, vision paid for and everything like that, and you're getting a great wage. If you're going now, I'm not I'm not gonna say, and I'm not gonna be die hard. I'm not gonna die on a certain hill when it comes to an open shop or a closed shop. So like I'm gonna die on the hill of a closed union shop, or I'm gonna die on the hill of an open shop. There's benefits to both, to be quite honest. An open shop, you can just, if you want to work, open shops, you can work and you can get your money's worth out of being in an open shop. And sometimes there's been times where we've had to say, hey, it would behoove you during the interview process of apprenticeship, hey, it would behoove you to just get into an open shop and kind of start getting some reps in that way, and then just start applying again. So you can do it in a couple different ways, I think. Some of it is through the trade school and then getting your hours in. That's a huge thing, to be quite honest. So you have to get on the job training hours in order to get that journeyman, either plumber or HVAC tech, and get all your certs. So a lot of things that I tell people is when they're trying to go HVAC route, hey, make sure you have your EPA 608 and you're good to go that way. Hey, look at trying to maybe do a certificate program at one of the community or technical colleges that we know of. I try and goad people that way versus if they come out of the military and they're pretty green. It's like, okay, they've gone through veterans and piping program. They've gone through, maybe a time in an open shop a little bit. Okay, what does that look like for them? Hey, could they be possibly a good value add for us here doing that? So, and really, honestly, once you're in that tradesman role, because you're a tradesperson for about 6 months, and then you start to climb the ladder of apprenticeship. And then once you journey out, that's when you can really start to either be on with a company or you could start to solicit work as well too. And so some of the route to journeyman union is going to be a little bit more rugged, a little bit more stringent. But once you're in that union environment as an apprentice, as a tradesperson or tradesman first, and then start climbing up the apprenticeship ladder, just start getting as many classes as you can under your belt. But you could also do it the open shop route. So if you do a program and hey, I know how to talk to people, I've done the certificate program, let me go into an open shop and see what it has for me. You could go that route, and then as long as you have enough hours under your belt to test for that journeyman's license, that's another way that you can do it. So I'm not gonna say that I like one over the other. I think there's advantages and disadvantages to both ways, because the union route, it's going to take a little bit of time, to be quite honest, because it's very competitive. And we're looking at a lot of different folks who just, you probably can't even imagine having that skill, has that background, does that. Um, and they come in and they interview great, stuff along those lines. So sometimes I tell folks, if they're trying to go the union route and their goal is to be a journeyman electrician, hey, maybe just take a certificate program and then go into an open shop, because that's right now a lot of mom and pop shops, they're needing a lot of different techs and a lot of different service people in different areas, because a lot of folks, a lot of generations, or at least, I mean, our baby boomers are definitely, if they're not already there, they're definitely there as far as retiring goes. And now it's Gen X. And Gen X is right in that kind of like sweet spot area to retire as well too. And once that happens, I don't think there's enough tradesmen on the millennial generation to back them up. And so a lot of it is looking for your Gen Zers sometimes, which I find that a lot of Gen Zers are quitting like conventional 4-year university college and going into trades a lot of the time. So that's kind of the route that you could do it. If you have, I could put you on to a couple different people that can talk to you about the route in which you can be at least there's one guy that I know of, Lester, who's at Clover Park Technical College here in Lakewood, Tacoma area, who does a really great job. He's a veteran as well too, but he's the dean of trades there, and he does a great job of how to walk through that looks like of becoming a welder in Washington State or becoming a licensed journeyman electrician in Washington State. And so,
Well, what I've seen pop up is I'm in Texas right now.
mm,
What a lot of them are doing is they're creating their own trade schools pretty much, and
yeah,
it's free. So it's called Learn While You Earn. So you don't
yep,
have to use any of your benefits. You don't have to use anything. And what they're doing is they're giving you a lower wage. So instead of making that $64 an hour, they're going to start you off at $20 an hour. And then they're going to let you actually sit there and get spun up and learn the trade while you're actually getting all the certificates behind you. Once you have the certificates behind you, and depending on how you measure up on a test, so you take a written test just like anything, and how you scored on that test, you're on a whole sheet, say a spreadsheet, for example. And what they'll do is the actual certified, whatever you want to call it, plumbers, whatever it is, they'll select you from that list and actually add you to their team. So if you've already been drafted and you're still available, that's pretty much how you get selected. And once you get selected, that's how you get your work and start getting your hours. And from my understanding, too, it's still about 4,000 hours to get your journeyman. At least that's how it's always been through the Department of Labor. No matter what it is, it's always 4,000 hours. But sometimes they'll cut your hours in half depending on some of your experience and if you can show some proficiency as
yep,
well as score well on some of the aptitude tests. But the reason I do bring that up is, like you said, this big vacuum that's going to be coming up here in the next 10 years where you're going to have this huge void. And then you have these individuals who have their bachelor's and master's degree who are fighting to make a decent wage. They're going to start, making, hey, only thing available is 50,000 a year. But if you're a tradesman, you're making
mhm,
150 to 250,000 a year because they don't exist anymore. So
yeah.
that's why I brought that question up to you. But no, I appreciate the insight, and you being up in the Northeast, I'm down south, so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, you might be thinking I'm in the Northeast. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so I'm in the Washington, the greater Seattle area. So, I mean,
Ah,
similar culture, just different coasts. So,
I got you. I got you.
Jack, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, and
oh, it's
looking through
fine.
the chat, I don't see any more questions. Uh, what's one final thought you have for the group that as we're transitioning out from the military into civilian life?
Kind of a tall order to kind of try and tackle. You know what? Right now, it's an interesting time that we're going through as far as the job markets go, as far as things are going in our economy, and a lot of pivots are happening and everything along those lines. And so, uh, if there's one key word that I would give people, it's contingency. Like you're gonna have to have a contingency to the contingency, to be quite honest, because your plan A may not go well, and you might have to do your plan B, C, D, E, F, you know, name the rest of the alphanumerics from there on out. And so really try and prepare yourself if so just in that example too. So let's say you are mechanically inclined and you have done stuff in the military that shows that. So let's say, I'm starting to see a lot of Air Force airmen get out of service, and some of them actually have really good HVAC background. Um, but the problem is that, maybe it's going to take a little bit of time to get them in the union. So it's like, okay, what can they do here as far as like maybe there's an open shop. I know some people who are in that, arena that could do that. Or maybe, I have a background too of my first recruiting gig was doing construction rental equipment. Maybe you can go kind of work on HVAC systems for them as like a lot of those a lot of those companies need just people straight up. They need new entry level people to start working on HVAC systems or generators and stuff like that. And if you're really mechanically inclined, that's going to be easy for you, to be quite honest. And then you can kind of level your way up through the company that way. And if you want to go union, then go union. So Yeah, I would say contingencies are really important for your transition, because what will happen, what you think will happen will happen. So if something doesn't work out, if you really been banking, that you're going to get this interview for this job and you don't, that's what I always tell myself, and that's what I always try to be honest with people. It's like, a lot of people sometimes are very optimistic, and I'm like, yeah, but what if that doesn't happen? What are you going to do?
Yep.
So, yeah, I would say contingencies, making sure that if something, and then on top of having contingencies, like, who do I know who can help me through this time, in which I could, bounce some ideas off of, or am I, just really not there as far as, my plan B working out? Maybe I can just, kind of need somebody as a sounding board to say, hey, does this sound right? Or is this messed up? Or like, is my resume just not working out? Like, what's going on here? So sometimes you just need that too, to where you have that support team behind you that's going to shoot with you straight, versus somebody who's, I don't know, blowing smoke at you a little bit more. So, um, yeah, I would say contingencies, make sure that you have that. And I think on top of it as well, too, like, you're going to have to, that resiliency, any kind of resiliency training that you've done in the military, you're going to have to take that over during your time transitioning out of service. So, maybe you have, a disability compensation rating by the VA, and you can, at least you have that to go off of. I know that's what I had when I was
Yeah.
getting out of service, but that's not going to solve your problems. And you can't
Yeah.
live off that effectively if you're at 30% or below, like I was. So you're going to have to figure out who's your support team, who's going to be the people that, hey, if something goes wrong, who am I going to call? What am I going to do with this? And for me, I've always been plugged into a local church, and that's been my support system through the entire way forward. And so that's really helped me out. But also I've had, my dad, who's a Vietnam Navy veteran, who is plugged into a lot of different veterans groups in Central Washington and across the state as well too. And so he was a huge help for me. I had my friends who were already working in the nonprofits that I could go to get at least get a temp job from there, and then try and, start building off of that. And so, yeah, having contingencies and then having your support team is honestly going to help you out in more ways that you can think, because there'll be times where you're depleted, like you need somebody to talk to, or you're going to need that support team to help you out when maybe stuff hits the fan. So,
Yeah. Gotta have that wingman or that battle buddy out there
yep.
looking out for you. If you don't mind, I'm gonna throw your LinkedIn in the
Yeah.
chat here. You'll probably end up getting a lot of connections in the next few
Oh
minutes.
yeah, they're coming in. Oh.
So Jack, again, I don't want to take too much more of your time. I really appreciate you stopping in, dropping a ton of knowledge on us. And yeah, everybody, please thank Jack stopping by. We have another speaker here in about 15, 20 minutes. So until 8:59, let's take a break. Thank you, Jack. Have a great day.
Yeah, appreciate you all. Thanks so much. I'll try and get to your invites as